Today I want to share this Funcils watercolor paint set. It features 50 vibrant, rich pigments, which is really gorgeous. So it comes in this little travel case, and it all matches. We also get a swatch card, plus a little pad of watercolor paper. It's pretty textured. So opening the box here, it has that little closure. You open it up and it does come with several supplies in here. There's an eraser and 3 brushes. There's also a water brush here. So you'll fill this with water and then you can squeeze it so you can paint on the go. There is a black acrylic marker here and an unsharpened pencil, plus a little sponge. Right away you have a color key right here that pops out. So it gives you an idea of the colors you're going to get, plus you get to make your own swatch card right here. So I would say that these things don't stay perfectly in place. I had noticed when I opened it, well, this time they did stay, but the eraser had popped out. So you do have all those in this little kit. Here's a fun swatching activity to do with a new set of paints, or even paints that you've had. But I just got these and I want to see what all the colors look like. And rather than just painting blobs on the page, I'm going to use this 6 flat brush to paint diamonds. And it's going to be a gradation of diamonds across the page using all of these colors. So this is the Funcils watercolor paint set. We have 50 colors here to work with. And this brush is the Artigria brush, and it came in this set with 10 other brushes. So I'm going to start by just getting my brush really wet, making sure there's a lot of water in there, and starting with this first one, this gold. And it can take a little bit of practice getting the right diamond shape. So you don't want to pull too far or it's not going to be a diamond. It'll be more of a rectangle. That gold is a little challenging to see on this first go, but maybe as we get going to some of these darker colors, they'll be a little easier to see. So I'm not too worried about these being perfect. And I don't even think I'm going to do the same amount of diamonds for each color. So making sure I have a lot of pigment on my brush. And I want the corners to just touch so they gently bleed together. And I'm noticing as I start, it's a little more pigmented here and gets a little less pigmented as I go over, and that's typical with any kind of paint. As I lay it down on the paper, there is less on the brush. I've got to the edge and I'm going to come back down to the other side. I'm going to skip the white because it's white on white, not going to show up. I very rarely use white watercolor. Sometimes you can use it to mix with another color and you could make it a little bit lighter. I chose this set because it had a variety of metallics. There's a row of metallic all the way down here. There's a nice collection of neons. I think probably around there is the neons. Plus a full collection of all the other colors of the rainbow. And I did decide to carry, I had the 2 diamonds over there and continued with the same color down to this side. Like I said at the beginning, not really doing any specific pattern. So sometimes there's 4, sometimes there's 5, or even 6. So these yellowers are a little harder to see on screen, on camera, but they are vibrant and yellow here in person. Oh, I love when it's wet up around it and it just bleeds right into it. That's a really cool effect, which is why I thought this would be such a cool swatching activity. It's a great way to see the pigments of all the colors and also have a cool little design when you're done. That's a nice hot pink. It can be challenging to find a nice, good pink, so I'm happy with that color. Oops. Just going back in. I want them to touch. I like the way that bleed looks. I'm rinsing my brush fairly thoroughly between each one so that I have pure colors, but they're also all warm, so I'm not too worried about them getting muddy. My diamonds are getting a little off track. I'm just going to correct that by overlapping there a tiny bit to get them back in line. I'm going to skip this white metallic color. It's not going to show up the same way I skipped the white over there. So I have this green. I am going to make sure I rinse it out really well when I move to the red next. It's really tight on that end. It's okay, I'm not worried about being perfect. This is just an exercise, learning the colors I have, and it's even just great practice making this diamond shape. I'm going to rinse it out pretty thoroughly, get back to another green here. So I also could have gone down the rows this way, and maybe that's something I'll try another time just to see the different pattern that I get, the way the gradation of the colors comes through. Ooh, green and red are blending together. Might have to do a little work on the next row to clear up those diamonds. They got all close together. These ones are further apart. So I think with a palette like this, because there's so many different shades of red, I would probably create another swatch, and maybe even just using the card that came with it would help me distinguish all of the different shades of red over there. But I think it would be nice to look at a swatch card of all the reds together to see how they are different. So I'm going to skip that one and just kind of make this one a little bit bigger. And I will put that one in and that one in. So kind of cleaning up those diamonds over there. Fix that shape. All right, we are, I believe, right here. That one looks a little wet. Sparkly teal, the metallics. At first, I wasn't a big metallic fan, but once I started using them, I saw how fun and magical they are. So the more water you have on your brush, the looser those diamonds can look. And they're more likely to bleed into the other diamonds when they touch. The less water you use, the less bleeding you're going to have. Just decided to not connect those to reset that row. Back to the metallics. I can see I've started kind of creeping. I think that's why it got tight up there. My rows aren't perfectly straight, and that, again, that's okay. It's just an observation. Just going to reset a little bit by straightening those out. It's just a test sheet. It's a play and observe. Get to make up and change the rules. So again, I'm kind of resetting my line. Oh, pigment's resisting a little bit. I probably had a little bit of lotion on my hand, and I've been running my hand across the page. So being aware of any oils you might have on your hand, it can transfer to the paper, so watching out for that. This is my sketchbook and it's a test sheet, so again, I'm just observing what's happening, not worried about it. I think my favorite areas of this so far have been actually where it was really tight and watery and blended together. So now that I've kind of adjusted my rows, I'm going to pick up that pink just a little bit more. There we go. One more. Now that I've adjusted my rows, I'm going to get back to having them all touch because I can see the watercolor magic when they overlap. That's my favorite. Just adding a little more pigment back in those spots. That's a lovely emerald color. So looking at, I only have 2 more rows of color. I'm noticing the set comes with a lot of reds and oranges, a lot of those warmer shades. It's a good selection of the cooler purples and blues and greens, but it seems like there are more of the reds. If I were to do this again, I might purposely move around to create like a proper rainbow gradient from one color to the next, maybe starting with red and moving all the way around to purple. That's a really pretty metallic. Or no, that's actually not a metallic, it's just a deep green, kind of emerald forest green. I love it right here, all those colors blending together. Ooh, very rich royal blue. This can be a nice way to see how the colors blend together or what colors maybe you notice, oh, I really like this collection of colors. Maybe I want to do a painting with those. It's not a very saturated black. If I really wanted a good saturated black, I might consider getting a separate black. 2 more left here. Last one. And then I'm just going to go back up this row here a little bit. I want to finish out the row of diamonds. So we have a few little repeats there. And there is the diamond swatch with all 50 colors. I will note, having 50 colors can be really overwhelming when you're going to do a painting. So limiting your color palette by choosing just a handful of colors can really help unify your painting. So maybe you choose that you want to use a lot of warms and maybe just 1 or 2 of the purple or blues. Using mostly warm colors with some cool colors or mostly cool colors with some warm colors can be a really nice way to create a limited palette. So we could try that with, say, deciding, well, I'm just going to use this orange here. Actually, it's like a marigold color. And then this darker red color. And I know I personally, this blue has really caught my eye recently. And without realizing, I've kind of chose the primary colors. They're just slightly off. This is red, but it's a little orangey, and this is yellow, but it's a little orangey, and then that blue. I always love teal, so let's throw in teal. So right now I've got 2 warms and 2 cools. I like to do off and uneven amount of warm and cool. So let's throw in neon orange as another color we might use. We're making up a palette, and what's this hot pink going to be like in there? I always love throwing in some neon and bright colors. So this could be a palette that I use for some other painting. I've got the marigold color and the orangey red, this vibrant blue, some teal, neon orange, and neon pink. It's a nice little limited palette to work with. So I'd love to see how you try this out. You could go ahead and swatch all your paints if you wanted, or you could just do the warms or the cools. It's a fun way to create just a beautiful collection of color. It's like a kaleidoscope here with really minimal thought. By adding limitations, you're able to focus more on creating, because you're not getting stuck on, well, what am I going to do next? We've just limited, we're using all these colors, and we're using one shape. So it makes it a lot easier to move forward. Happy creating!